Never make a podcast clip again.
Clips are making you stupider.
No one in this conversation agrees. Welcome to the Signal Room. I am Jemma Brown. I'm the general manager of the Signal Awards. And today on the show, we are talking about clips. These are the bite-sized versions of podcasts that are invading your TikTok and Instagram feeds. Clips catch your attention, but where does that attention go? Do clips actually benefit podcasters, or are we just feeding the algorithm? So to break it down, we have in the Signal Room today, Ashley Carman, journalist at Bloomberg. Hey, Ashley.
Hi.
And we have Nishat Kurwa, the SVP of Vox Media Podcast Network.
Hi, Jemma. Thanks for having me.
And we have Toby Howell, co-host of Morning Brew Daily.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
So to tee this up, I read a piece in the Ankler that said, and I'll just read it directly. It said, quote, "Love it or hate it, clipping matters, especially to the 71% of Gen Z who find their TV and movie recommendations by flipping through shorts." I read that number and it made me think whether this is possible for podcasting as well. And to that, have any of you, we're going to start in with a personal question, been converted into a, call it, full-time listener of a podcast from watching a clip?
I initially consumed Giggly Squad, which just won iHeart's Podcast of the Year this week, only through clips, but I find them so endearing via the clips that there have been select episodes where, there's an anecdote that they're discussing and I do want to hear a little bit more, or I want to see how it played out. And so I go to the long form version. Obviously, this is hard to disentangle from my professional interests, but I would say that is one where consistently their clipping strategy is working on me.
Okay, so that's 1 point for Team Clips.
I'm on Team Clips. Wow. Okay.
It's a good answer because if we say no, I feel like we're undermining like the rest of the answers we give
Right.
throughout the rest of the episode.
Exactly.
I think I gotta undermine though because I was listening and thinking, and I don't know if I've ever been converted to the full-time podcast. I see so many basement yard clips, and that's all I need. That's all I need from them. Like I don't need, the longer form. And yeah, it is. I was sitting here racking my brain. I just really have like my social media, podcasts that you almost listen to or watch on social. And then there's like the ones that you actually listen to. And to me, those are almost like different buckets in my head, with a million caveats, because we're going to talk about all the ways that I do think clipping works. So that's just going to be my initial answer. And I hope I don't undermine the rest of, our discussion by saying, no, I've never been converted.
I want to throw a scoreboard in the back. Team Clips, Team Anti-Clips.
I had a very 2026 podcasting dilemma this weekend when I was on Instagram. I saw a clip from Jake Shane's podcast.
Girl.
I know this is like the nerdiest, but I was on Instagram and I saw a clip from Jake Shane's podcast where he interviewed Meg Stalter. And I also was like, oh, I love Meg Stalter. I really want to watch this. But his show is now exclusive to Netflix. So I was on my phone, and it was a moment where, honestly, if it had been on YouTube, I probably would have toggled over to YouTube and easily just put it on and like gotten ready for the day. But because it was on Netflix, it was just this extra hurdle that I was like, I really don't want to do that extra tap where it's my profile, and I don't want to go through this whole flow. So I ended up not actually converting there.
You weren't in a Netflix watching mode.
I wasn't, but I feel like I've become more familiar with shows through their clips, even if I haven't converted to a full-time viewer/listener.
Have you ever left being a full-time listener to a pod because you can just get those juicy, juicy nuggets on Instagram?
I don't think I've ever left. It's a really interesting question, but I do think there is a sense of exposure that maybe for my personal consumption does a little bit of replacement work. So I may still, listen or watch my regular podcasts, and then if I'm also following them and seeing them on social, if I skip a week and get highlights via clips, I will remain a dedicated listener or viewer, but I might skip that week of listenings. What about you, Ashley?
No, but yeah, I have had moments where if I haven't gotten to an episode yet and then I see the clip, it either can turn me off from an episode where I'm like, okay, that didn't actually seem that good, and maybe I don't want to listen this week. Or I'm a little bit like, there's total context collapse here, and I really wish I had just listened to the full thing and not seen the clip yet.
It really does feel like it depends on which podcast that in terms of like the hierarchy of your own podcast stack. Like if it's one that you listen to every morning or it's like a very habitual one, no, you're never going to say, "Oh, I'm not listening to it because I heard like one, 30-second clip on social." If it is maybe a once in the blue moon, maybe one you only tune into if it's guest driven, then I could see it, replacing your listening habits. But everyone's got different, podcasts for different moments in time. And I think clipping influences each one of those podcasts differently.
And one other thing about like why I subscribe to short form videos for podcasts I'm already habitually listening to or viewing. I mean, a lot of it speaks to the parasocial relationship or
Mhm.
the relationship of a subscriber that has this deeper relationship because I will follow them just to support them, just to sort of add to
Mm.
their reach across platforms because I know this is a way of whether, it might not be direct monetization, but it is a way of like put, making deposits of my support on the different channels where they appear.
Ashley, last year you wrote an article that used this a very subtle verb choice, which was cannibalize in relationship to clips. Do you think you could give us just the thesis of that piece, and also if you still stand by it today, or if you've moved into the more pro clip camp, let's call it?
Yeah. So the piece that I wrote was basically pointing out that there had been this developing behavior. And actually, one of the prime examples I used was a Vox Media host, Kara Swisher, who was interviewing one of the hosts from The Bulwark. And she was saying that she consumes The Bulwark, but only as clips on social media. And this really got me thinking about, are there people out there who consider themselves listeners of a podcast, but actually are just consuming it as clips rather than the full episodes? And why you could say this is cannibalizing is because the way podcasters make money is by having ads in their full episodes. So while it's awesome that people are getting consumption on social media, it also could present a real actual problem for the business if that becomes how people consume rather than hearing ads on the shows and those impressions being tallied up. And then I will put the caveat and say that, yes, there are, of course, impressions on social media that you can sell ads against too, but generally speaking, that is not how the podcast market has worked up until this point.
I will say for us, we have not seen evidence of clip consumption replacing full app consumption elsewhere.
It's surprising.
It is.
What do you think that could be attributed to?
I think the social clips are top of the funnel. They're helping new audiences discover the show. And, hopefully we're converting some percentage of those new audiences that we bring in through top of funnel. And to Ashley's point, we kind of respect audience preference in terms of where they want to consume the show and consider the people consuming on social platforms part of the total universe of audience. And we, monetize accordingly on other channels.
Toby, you're going to play the role in this interview of clips guy. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. It's on the mind a lot, so absolutely.
Okay. Well, you had teased earlier, what goes into a good clip, and I definitely want to hear about that from you, but also just curious, do you think about the clip while you're recording? Are you like preparing the answers in your head for that, call it viral nugget effect?
So I have a dirty little secret that the clips that we post are not from the show. They are re-recorded after, specifically geared for a social audience, because I don't even think of social media as a place that you should just, copy and paste what you can get from a long form episode. Like it should be its own thing that you
Yep.
want to consume while you're there. Like it should stand alone. Like our account should be an account that you would want to follow even if you never heard about the podcast. And I think that eventually trickles down to conversions, kind of like what Nishat was talking about. But yeah, we literally record the whole podcast. We think about which story do we think is best for social. Sometimes it's not even a story we covered in the podcast. Then we make it look like we are in a podcast, but we've, scripted it a little bit more. We've been doing this thing where we're doing a very janky teleprompter setup where I'll literally have my co-host Neil hold his computer up so it looks like I'm looking at him, but he's holding up words in the
Wow.
tracks for me to remember what to say. So it's all in the pursuit of making our social media a place that you would want to follow and, stay up to date with us, even if you didn't even know we had a podcast. Which again, it sounds counterintuitive because, like, do we want to convert? Do we want to get people in? Of course we do, but I'd rather just, make something good there in and of itself. And I think good things are downstream of that.
Fully, my brain is like, at the end of this recording, let's record the clip.
Right. Right. Yeah. They're different mediums. They really are. Like, a long form podcast is a different medium than social media. And so it's sometimes you're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. Why don't you just, build the peg to fit the shape of the hole from the ground up? I don't know. That metaphor got a little convoluted, but I think you're on the same page.
We're going to take a quick break from our program to chat clips with Chris Savage, the CEO of Wistia. Wistia, if you don't know, is the tech under the hood of this very show. And so we're so excited to have Chris here. Welcome to the Signal Room.
Thank you for having me.
For those marketers out there that aren't professional video editors or don't have time to create multiple video clips, do you have a hack for doing it quickly?
We actually have something called Remix here at Wistia, which is an agentic video editor. So what that means is you can take a video like this, a 50-minute long video. I can say, hey, I want you to create, I'm using a default prompt, a highlight reel with a narrative arc, hook, insight, all this kind of stuff. And an agent will go through and look at the transcript, look at the video, try to figure out what's going on, and try to come back with what could be good clips from this podcast. And it will actually introduce slides and it'll introduce narration to fill in the story. So you have something that's more complete than you would have otherwise.
Wow.
And the cool thing about this, you can say like, I like this, but remove that music. And it'll go through and you just talk to it the way you would talk to a person. And it'll change the edits for you.
So powerful.
Yeah, we're super excited.
No excuses not to repurpose your content. If you want to check it out, visit wistia.com/signalroom. Thank you so much for showing us around, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Do you ever think about what's in front of the paywall with clips versus behind the paywall? This could be a question for you, Toby or Nishat. Almost like, what are you gonna give away versus hold back for your quote full-time listeners?
That's a good question. We are not holding back on social media and short form clips, no. Because again, that's, our biggest potential new audience. And so I think we want to be generous there and have the clips ubiquitously on all channels.
Yeah, I agree. Grow the pie, baby. Grow the pie. Like, it's all part of, I don't know what you said exactly, but it was like total audience universe. I kind of like that, like Tao. We're just going to coin that now. Grow it, like that is objectively a good thing. And we think about clips in very same way. It's like one for me, one for thee, where like the one for me one is for like the super fans. It's dumb stuff. Sometimes it shows like the relationship with me and my host more. That is exactly how we think about it too. It's like, let's do one that, probably has a better chance of reaching a larger audience. It probably does have something to do with a very current news topic. But then, like we saw who could like jump higher and put a sticky note on a pole higher. But then that did very well too. Like it literally, it is for just, I don't even know what kind of fan that's for, but apparently people like watching us jump. But I think that distinction between super fans and like broader audience is something that we subscribe to as well.
I have a question for Ashley. You've written about clips and how what's happening in podcasts isn't unique to the podcast industry. It's actually facing late night hosts too. Everyone from Kimmel to Fallon, biggest shows out there on TV are also becoming these clip factories. And I guess as this conversation is evolving, the clipping, what shows up in short form, this is just kind of a reflection of our in some ways changing consumption habits. And maybe the data saying what we in this room don't necessarily want to, which is like give the people what they want. Maybe clips are enough. Let's just make some 22-second podcasts, putting that on your plate. Curious what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think clips are kind of the currency that powers our modern internet right now. You know, this guy, Clavicular, for better or worse, like, I think it's been discussed that he hires clip armies to try to get his clips out there. Like, you're really competing with millions of clips from every sort of creator. And so it just makes sense that everyone feels like they also need to be in this because it's what the platforms are pushing. I would say, like, one thing that's sort of I've been thinking about is that Book Talk exists. And what's interesting there is the fact that they have sort of been able to resist the pull to get into video, despite being obviously a physical medium that is focused on words, and they have no incentive to have to go into visuals. And what's been interesting to me about Book Talk is that they have found a way to capitalize off of short form clips, but it's all coming from a fan and from a community standpoint versus giving away any of the book for free or any of the audiobook for free. So that's just something I've been thinking about personally is how can we kind of take from Book Talk in that way and again profit from the fact that short form is a thing, but also maybe think about how can we do this in a way that doesn't necessarily give away the best material we have on the actual show.
I mean, it sounds like that's kind of the Toby tactic, right? Like you're making material that is adjacent and in the kind of fan universe of the show without being like, here's the best 10 seconds of my podcast.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing that I'm curious, Toby, to hear you speak about this, because one thing that I've heard from folks about is that when doing the sort of like, let's take over the cold open so that it's a little bit spicier, there's more drama, or you make a really shocking face so that people want to keep watching through, or we can clip it, is in some cases, people feel a little bit of a tension of like, depending on what their role is. So if they're like a journalist, for example, they feel a little bit conflicted being like, well, we're kind of scripting this thing that is supposed to be organic versus doing a thing that just happened naturally.
You said a lot of good things, actually. I want to touch on like Clavicular first, actually, because I actually do think like podcasting, in the grand scheme of clipping, is like baby crawling still. Like we are so far behind what like the young Twitch and like Kick streamers are doing. Like they are flooding the zone to such a degree that we comprehend. Like when you said clipping army, it is literally like a Discord server with hundreds of kids just cranking these things out, cranking out not just scripts, but like edits, adding like storylines on top of it. Like it's like WWE-esque in the way that they've added additional storylines onto like this one singular figure. And I do think that like podcasts so far behind. Like, what do? We cut 30 seconds and put it out there. And we go like, huh, why? How come like we don't have the eyeballs that these guys do? So obviously you don't there's like a middle ground there. Like you don't know you to do exactly what kick streamers are doing. But I do constantly think about like, God, our output is just so minimal. I don't know. There's like a lot of different avenues that I feel have been pretty unexplored because some of the biggest shows come from, news organizations that would just never think about doing that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of white space out there. The second part of what you're saying, Ashley, about like, like, are you trying to script a non-scripted moment? And I think about that too. I really just am trying to tell the story in a way that will keep you engrossed while you're swiping through a trillion Instagram reels and maybe send it to your friend. Like that's my North Star, not necessarily trying to like recreate unscripted magic from a previous moment because you're right, you just can't even really do that in the first place.
Yeah, I think for journalists thinking about clipping journalistic shows, they are applying journalistic ethics and integrity to not faking things in a way that would exceed the bounds of, anything they do when they're doing their jobs as journalists. I do think that social content in general and shoulder content on journalistic shows does afford the opportunity for journalists turned podcasters to play a little bit and to like express themselves and form relationships with the audience that they might not have had the freedom to do or felt the creativity to do in other formats. So that's that's interesting to watch and facilitate.
Anything unconventional that you've been learning from clips that we wouldn't expect?
What do you mean unconventional?
Yes, I'm just feeding off what you were saying, Nishat, of like there's a bit more playfulness, a bit more of a spirit of throwing spaghetti at the walls, a bit more experimentation. Um, what are we learning from playing around in this new medium about what audiences want?
I mean, I think conversely to the point I just made, one thing that at Vox Media we don't ever pressure our podcasters to do is like manifest a particular kind of playful personality or something that feels like a departure from who they are and want to be online, just for the clips, just for the sake of the clips. Like again, short form and clipping can be a place to play. But if they don't feel like that fits with their persona or their brand, we're never going to push them to try something that feels like it's not a fit, just simply to achieve virality.
I'm going to jump in and lead us in doing something a little unconventional, which is, Toby, I would love for you to guide us in making a clip.
Oh no.
Oh man.
This is the tension though, because the best moments are gonna be our, snapping off
Right.
each other, playing off each
Right.
other. Okay, well,
As long as I don't
all
have to
right.
hold up the laptop.
Are we trying to God, I'm ruining the clip already. I don't want to think about being someone that I'm not in order to go viral on social media. I don't think anyone wants to, fully Mr. Beastify themselves and do the shocked face and do something that feels very at odds with like who they are as a person. But I do often think about it is if I was telling a story to my friends and I could tell it like this and not very compelling and they're losing interest and I'm talking quietly, or I could command the room and, get this person involved and make eye contact and you just make it an exciting story. That's still me. Like that's just a better way of delivering the story. So that's how I think about it. It's like the faceless masses of social media are just a group of my friends that I want them to look at me and I want them to pay attention to what I'm saying, which we've all done before. Like we've all tried to, tell a story. I'm doing it right now for you guys where I want you guys to lean in and think about what I'm saying. I just bring that same energy to social media and it usually leads to better outcomes without, sacrificing my soul at the altar of Mr. Beast, if you will.
I would like to know, like, when you're directing yourself or when one of your producers is directing you, how do you get into the zone? Because it sounds easy, like talk like you're talking to your friends, but it's kind of actually the hardest thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many parts of it, and it's not a lot of science. Part of it is art too, where you just after we finish the show, we go, all right, what do we think we'll do well on social? We kind of run through the show again, pick the story that we think has the best chance of resonating. Like you just iterate very quickly, and this all happens very, very soon. And after the show, like we get to editing right away. It's not a long drawn out process. It just kind of goes. So that's generally the process that we follow. And also it could change next week too. Like maybe we try a different format too. It is an iterative process. It's not something that's set in stone.
One thing to say about the post-production process when it comes to clipping is, we were talking about audience cannibalization, which I think all of us are pretty much agreeing that we're not too worried about the danger of that. But I do think resource cannibalization is something that we think about. You mentioned clipping armies. We have, of course, experimented with all of the AI clipping tools out there and will continue to do so. For many of our shows, they just don't work very well for us. They don't handle crosstalk very well. They are not doing the kind of selection, the kind of quality selection that a human producer does to date. Now we know that the tools are getting better all of the time. And so we do, when we're thinking about the producer resources that are working on all of the aspects of post-production that include clipping, we're making decisions every week about both the volume of clips that we're producing and also how much time we're spending on each one.
Ashley, what do you think is the clippiest part of this conversation?
Um, I think we need to get a big hook in here.
Okay.
I think we need something like
Wow. I feel I failed.
no,
I
I think we
failed.
literally just
And
need
being
the one
clippable.
line. That's something, like that's like
Mhm. The soul of Mr. Beast
yeah, like
line.
we
I
need
think
the
that's
one
pretty
line.
good.
Maybe that's the line.
Mhm.
Or you just say something deliberately wrong.
Or that.
Never clip again.
And then in small letters underneath the clip, Jemma, you'll be like, no one in this conversation agrees on that.
Yeah, right. Or you need to
Yeah,
make a
yeah.
statement that's like gonna purposely provoke your audience. Yeah,
Inflammatory.
be like clips are making you stupider or something. And then go from there.
I like that. Cannibalizing your
Yeah,
brain.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think we're on the right track.
Heavy is the head that wears the podcaster crown in this conversation.
Brilliant. Well, thank you all so much. I love this conversation. I feel like I got a lot out of it, and I appreciate you bringing your very professional selves and also your silly selves to the camera.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jemma.
Thank you.